Our featured guest tonight is a rising director and writer whose new feature film, The Comic Shop, starring Jesse Metcalfe and Tristan Mays, releases next month. Here to chat about his life, career, and brand new film, The Comic Shop, is none other than director Jonathan L. Bowen. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Jonathan, you're on your second feature film now with the coming release of The Comic Shop, but I'd like to start a little on your own story first. Were
Sure.
there a lot of movies and pop culture running through your house growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was always a pretty big movie buff, but I don't know, not until I don't think I had the access until I was more like 15 or 16, where, I could go to Blockbuster more. And eventually, I got on their 8 pass, which was like, could have up to 8, tapes out at once or DVDs or whatever. And so I would be like watching three, taking back three, and just doing this thing, all the time. And then I started a movie review site, which I saw as a way to kind of I guess, force me to watch more movies because I wanted to create more content for it. So it's a good way to brush up on film history.
Now, were your parents artistic or creative in any way?
Not really. My dad's a real estate developer, so he's kind of, in my opinion, pretty far away from that. But I guess there's vision involved, but it's more about money, like with those kinds of things. And that wasn't the way my brain really focused.
Got it. So, we've all got, you mentioned Blockbuster, and it kind of reminds me of some Tarantino stories where he talked about working in the video store and just endlessly watching those things. And we've all got certain movies that had an impact on us. Is there a specific movie memory that stands out to you from growing up as the one that was like the super impact movie for you?
Yeah, well, so that was, I guess, it's a cliche answer, but that was Star Wars. So I had always watched a lot of Star Wars, like we call, we even joke the Holy Trilogy. And I feel like all of my friends on Star Wars, I even had this really weird friend whose parents made him read the encyclopedia most of the time when he had free time. His parents were completely nuts. And so they only owned 3 movies, and it was the 3 Star Wars movies. That was it. That was all they owned. So basically, I didn't consider myself a fan though, because I didn't, I guess, have a concept of what fan means before this time. So when the Star Wars movies came back to theaters, everyone was talking about them. I remember not really caring, but it seemed like everybody made a big deal of it. So I figured, well, I should go see this, check it out. And when we got there, it was like 2:30 in the afternoon, and they told us they were sold out till 10:30. And I thought that was the weirdest thing because I'm like, doesn't everyone already have this movie at home? Like, how is this sold out? And so I didn't know what a big deal it was. So we went back that night, and everybody's dressed up and there's lightsabers everywhere and just total craziness. And I remember just sitting there in the theater, and you could just feel that electricity. And it was kind of in those moments that I was like, this is what I want to do. Because I thought, if something can mean so much to these people that 20 years later, this is the reaction, I want to be part of that. That's amazing to me. So it's kind of in that moments when I credit that I became a fan.
People have home theaters now, what I mean? But you still want that kind of theater experience. And it's a different viewing experience when you've got a whole audience, most of which are strangers, who are having the same reactions that you are. And that also lets you know a movie hit the right mark, right?
I think so. I mean, I think those are some of the cool things. I remember during that screening, people went wild, like when R2 appears or when Luke first appears, and all these things. And it was just like pandemonium. And that was kind of after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do in film, but I thought I want to work in film. And I think originally I thought of special effects. Then I kind of realized that doesn't make any sense, because what I love about Star Wars is not the effects, it's the mythology, the storytelling. And so it took me about a year before I'm like, yeah, I don't think effects would be it for me. But then, what a weird, film is such a weird thing, because how do you go from when you're a teenager, okay, I love movies, to imagining how you would direct one? It seems so far away that it would be like it almost seems like a toddler who can't walk thinking about walking on the moon. Like it seems that far away when you're at that point, you know?
Well, and I was going to ask if there was ever a point where the dream didn't seem feasible at all, and whether your parents were on board and supportive, or if there was a different path that they kind of wanted or hoped you would take.
Yeah, so my parents are really supportive of like as far as, whatever I want to do. My dad was he was a little funnier, like he was still supportive, but when I had first said the special effects thing, he told me something that did kind of resonate. I mean, I'm not super money focused, but it made sense what he was saying. He said, the thing about that kind of work is even if you make good money, even if you make a few 100,000 a year, you only make money when you're working. And he said, I make money all day long, every day, whether I'm fishing, sleeping, doesn't matter. Money just comes in. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point, So it kind of makes you think at least like along his lines. But I just told him too, I was like, I'm more like I want to create, like I want to make something and I'm not hyper focused on the money. Obviously, you have to make a living, but I don't know, it wasn't first of mind. I didn't want to just go through the motions.
Well, that's funny how, the way people, and I hate to put it this way, rebel from their parents is different from the way it used to always be. In other words, it's like, okay, my dad's a capitalist, so I'm going to be creative. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. That's
but so you chose to study philosophy in college, which I think is an interesting spot to land as a writer, being as it sits kind of at the heart of every story in both conscious and unconscious ways. What made you decide to study that instead of something else, knowing that special effects was possibly in the mix or movie making might have been in the mix? How did or was it just the standard collegiate, I don't know what to take, so I'm going to take philosophy? How did that come about?
so I started at Loyola Marymount as a film production major, and I worked so hard in high school to get into USC or UCLA. I was told I had like a 95% chance at USC, didn't work out, didn't get in. So all of a sudden I'm at this school that I didn't even look at. I submitted to because my advisor said, well, you need to have like a safety school. And so I get into both the safety schools for film production, but I was just coming from a religious, like a Jesuit high school. And I didn't really like want more of that. So I quit after a semester. I was like, I can't take this. Like it's just too depressing. So I did have one great class though that semester. And it was a guy, a professor, Brian Trainer, I think was his name. Really young. He was filling in for a professor on sabbatical in philosophy. And of all things, even though it was his first year he's filling in, he won Professor of the Year because his class is amazing. I think it was titled "What is the Best Life?" And when you really look at class, people say, "Oh, philosophy, how's that useful?" Well, I don't know. How's algebra useful compared to what is the best life? Like, I don't really use algebra every day, but I do think about my life every day, you know? And so when I took this class, it really inspired me to think of the big questions. Like, I'd always been intellectually curious, but I don't think I had thought in the terms that that class put. So then when I transferred to Oregon State, there's no film production. I only transferred there because it was closer to home and I had a lot of friends there and I was kind of trying to recover from this experience. So I thought, I love writing, English maybe. And then I thought, well, you write a lot in philosophy, and I think I'm more interested in philosophy than I am like English literature, really. So that's kind of what brought me to philosophy.